All right. Hello, ladies, and welcome. So glad you're here. And we have a guest speaker this evening. I'm so excited. This is a great topic to help individuals dive in and look at different ways to continue to trust their intuition. And we're going to look at some different topics tonight and dive into some common blockages that come up from that. So, this is a good place whether you're a beginner and just starting out and wanting to strengthen your intuition, or you've had a spiritual practice for a long time, and you're someone who wants to grow your business, you're in the right place. So I know we have a lot of new members, so I'll introduce myself quickly, and then I'll let Cherie take over and dive into this amazing subject that we have tonight. So my name is Kaitlyn. I'm an intuitive moon mentor, and I teach you lunar connection and lunar abundance to connect emotional release and spiritual practices with the phases of the moon to help you manifest and to help you make more money showing up in your purpose and doing what you love. So I'm excited to host Cherie today, and I will let you kind of take it away. Let us know a little bit about you, what you do, and then the topic that we're diving into tonight.
Sure. Thank you, Kaitlyn, for inviting me into your group. I'm really excited to be here. So a little bit about me. I had a career for about 20 plus years as a human resource professional. So coaching employees on finding work-life balance. So in 2021, I made the decision that I was going to go do my private business, coaching business, full time. So I'm an executive at the company that I work for now. So I have an exit strategy. I'll be leaving the first quarter of 2022 to do my business full time. So I'm really excited about that. And what I do in my business is I coach women on returning to unconditional self-love and confidence. What is unconditional self-love? Well, it's doing the inner work or inner healing and letting go of all the societal conditioning, religious conditioning, family conditioning, friend conditioning, all those expectations that are placed on us as we develop and grow. Conditioning can be something as simple as when I was younger, my sister had a temper. So if my dad brought home cookies and one was broken, if she got the broken cookie, she would scream. So my mother would just say, "Oh, just take the broken cookie, Cherie." I didn't care if it was broken or not, it all tastes the same. So I would take the broken cookie. So I learned to, and it was not an intention by my mom. It was just, "Oh, please, keep her quiet. You take that." So I learned to people please. So there's subtle conditioning, and it goes throughout our life. And I'm just going to refer to my notes because I don't know if any of you are familiar with human design, but I'm a manifesting generator. So I love all things and all ideas, and my mind goes in 1,000 directions. And that was also something that I thought, I was told that that's like not how you behave. That's not how you should act. That's not how you should think. So that's a conditioning that I had, that I thought, oh, all these ideas. No, I have to focus on one thing. So if you haven't dabbled in that, that's really interesting, and you learn a lot about who you are. But let me just see here. So the confidence part of unconditional love, you just become confident when you love yourself unconditionally. Loving yourself unconditionally is loving yourself, not looking in the mirror and saying, "Oh, I have a pimple, or I have a wrinkle, or my hair is gray." Loving yourself despite those things, or I've put on 10 pounds, I don't like the way I look. You love yourself unconditionally. You're a beautiful soul, and in all of these things that we're taught that are negatives really aren't negatives.
Yeah, and I talk about that a lot in the sense of like shadow work, for instance, right?
Yes.
You have the new moon coming up, and I kind of see that in a similar sense, right? Your shadow aspect for me is these aspects of ourselves that maybe we don't like so much, or maybe we're taught, like you're talking about tonight, right? Not to like, or that's less than, or like be quiet about that, or push that away, right? And when you can learn to accept those parts of yourself and shift your perspective and just kind of open up, even, is a great place to start, right? Just opening up and acknowledging them. You can really shift your perspective to see maybe how they are a strength in a certain way, right? Or how they serve you because you carry it around because it serves you in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Exactly. And so when the women that I work with, they come to me for guidance on all sorts of things, on weight loss, on finding their dream job, on finding their soulmate, um, relationships, whatever it might be, or they're starting their business, or their business has reached a certain point and they kind of stalled out. Um, and it's always the inner work. It's diving in and finding out, where does your worth come from? Well, I would say you're born worthy. You don't, someone doesn't hand you worth on a silver platter and say, you are officially worthy. I hear that a lot in corporate America. Well, or empowerment. I empower her to do this. And I always say empowerment comes from within. Like, you have to feel empowered. Someone can't hand you that. But these are limiting beliefs we have about ourselves. How we define our worth is always been focused on the external, right? We're taught that your employer pays you a certain dollar amount, and then that's your value or your worth. And you're worthy. If you're working somewhere, I'm working with someone now that's telling me, well, if all these people could just change, this would be the perfect job for me. Or if they just say thank you. And I said, so is that how you define your worth? And they're like, well, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
we all know that if someone says thank you to you, internally, you still don't feel worthy. You might feel it for a second, but to know that you're worthy, you show up in a totally different way. And those are all, like, especially women. I mean, humans are conditioned, but especially with women, we're just taught to give our all externally. We're not taught to love ourselves or to honor who we are in this moment, right? We're always looking for love in other places. Well, we are love, right? We are love. That's what we are. But we're always trying to seek it somewhere else and find our value, our worth, our power. So when we start to go inside, we find all these little things that hold us back from showing up as our authentic self. When I was doing, and just to be clear, I still have coaches. I still do the internal work because I don't think there's a finish line. I think it's a lifelong journey of healing. But one of the things that came out for me when I was working with one of my coaches, which never was on my radar, I was, however old you are when you're getting your first communion, I was raised Catholic, and I'm in the front of the church. It's this big, old, massive church, and I'm with my girlfriends, and you're like, what, 10, 12, I don't know. And we're giggling and laughing, and we get in line and we're going up, and I had my hand the wrong way. And the priest halted the entire church and screamed at the top of his lungs how I was not worthy. I was showing up with my hand in the wrong position. Do you think that impacted my life? It was like a 2-minute thing at 10, 12 years old. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So did I play small? Yes. Did I want to fly under the radar? most of my life, I was under that radar. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be screamed at. I don't want to poke anybody. I just want to please people and keep the peace. And when that came up for me, that was like really eye-opening, because I never thought about it again, but it's deep inside you. So there's all little things that trigger you or pop up. And that was a big one for me, because the person that you're seeing today, if you met me 5 years ago, you wouldn't recognize me. I was, not the same person. But I feel like I'm in a place where I'm my authentic self, and I'm not here for everybody to like me. I used to want everybody to like me, do everything for everybody. And when you put yourself first, it's not selfish. We're taught it is. So there's so many little shifts when you do that inner work. And then the big thing that you realize is that all the answers are inside of you. And that's our number one superpower, right? Women are so intuitive, but we're not taught how to grow that, right? You trust your gut. Intuition's not going to mislead you. It might lead you in a direction and you're like, I don't get this, but you will. So it's just building that trust inside and knowing that all your answers are inside. You have the answers to everything. You have the keys. It's just,
and there's so many layers to those healings as well. Like as you build your awareness and you go through life, right, achieving these different milestones, and some things that you thought you might have worked through come back up again, and then you see like another layer of it, or you're able to heal a deeper layer that helps you shift your perspective. And like you said, so often, I know I've had that experience too, where it's like I wasn't even aware, like I didn't even think about it, wasn't on my radar, and then it gets pointed out to you in a certain way. You're like, oh my God, that's why I do this thing. That's why I'm self-sabotaging myself. And it can be anything, right? It can be your food habits. It could be, relationships and how you show up and communicate. But that's what I always find fascinating, is that like there's another layer to it. And I myself have had, a similar story with, like, what was it? My spiritual awakening was like 4 years ago, I want to say now. So 4 or 5 years ago, it's like impossible for me to even speak. I get physical sensations and tightness in my throat. But I had to practice and do emotional release and all the things to get that through. But even today, when I want to do the next thing, when I want to put my next project out there or make that next investment level, like in a coach, like sometimes I'll find something I had thought I healed comes back up, which is just always interesting. But that's why I always encourage people too, it's like, it's a journey and it's continuous, and start where you are, because like it's never ending. There's always something to grow. There's always something to learn.
Start.
The cycles of that are fascinating.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you brought up that topic, because I was speaking with one of my clients today, and she was saying to me, well, I thought I did all this work 20 years ago. And she's a personal trainer. And I said to her, okay, so how about this? If I worked out 20 years ago and I built these muscles and then I didn't do it again for 20 years, do you think I would still have those muscles? And she's like, I didn't think about it that way. And I'm like, yeah, it's like something that it's a journey. Like you don't just work out one time and you're in great shape. Like it doesn't happen that way. And that's why I use the word work, because it's a commitment, and it's not always easy to face some of those, I guess they say little traumas, like little things that have defined who you are. And, a lot of times we just float through life. I floated through life, not really feeling or thinking, my focus was always outside, taking care of my husband, taking care of my kids, taking care of my house, my career, my this, the dogs, whatever it is. I never focused on me. And my path started, my spiritual awakening was in 2013, but I had mentioned to you before we started recording, it took me it's been a long and winding road because I was always second guessing myself and like judging, is this the right thing? Is that the right thing? And it's easy to get caught up in those things. And mine started with yoga. I had a back injury and my husband's like, you should try yoga. And I'm like, and I was always the treadmill runner. And I was, yoga? Like, I don't have time to lay on a mat and roll around. And he's like, you just need to try it. And that's where it began. And, you know, I went and became a yoga teacher. And then I went through Reiki master teacher training. And I got stuck in that worth where I had to have all the certifications to deem me worthy of helping other women. And I didn't need all those certifications. I loved learning, but and I still do learn, but and take courses, but I was so afraid to start a business until I had I have 9 certifications. I don't need 9.
The trainings, the certifications, and I have to know how to do it. And yeah, like you said, it's like the answers are within. And I hope that we'll get to talk about some of those tools a little bit, maybe to break through some of that and break through some of that conditioning. But I do want to mention, because it came up for me while kind of thinking and tuning in to this topic tonight, right? One area was so many women I talk to get caught because it's conditioned, right? And society has been comfortable with this for so long, this mental conditioning of that kind of masculine energy, you know, that we need to do. We need to have this structure and tradition and do things. And then also another common one that I talked with someone about today, in fact, was having this pattern to recognize all the reasons why not to, all the reasons why not to take the risk, all the reasons why not to trust your intuition, which for me now, having gone through so many cycles and doing my own internal work, know that you can retrain yourself, right? Just like you can retrain a muscle. And I always refer to it as the awareness muscle, that you can retrain that kind of thought process, which I see as more of like a kind of masculine energy, into one where you can recognize more of the positive or other alternatives and focus on what you want to manifest your desires.
Yeah. So the masculine is the doing, right? And the feminine is the lean back energy or the being. So when I look at those two energies, I think about, you know, you hear a lot about balance, and I don't think balance is the word. I think it's harmony. Sometimes you need to be in the doing, the masculine, and then there's time to lean back. Sometimes you need more lean back energy. And it's finding that harmony between the two, which is where it's the external thing, like you're always doing for others, giving of yourself to others. And some of that lean back energy is, how about just relaxing? How about going and getting a massage? How about going for a Reiki session, taking a class? It's the receiving is what the feminine is the lean back receiving energy. We're used to giving, doing is the masculine. So yeah, exactly. We work with like harmony of the two, because they don't need to be equal or balanced.
Perfectly equal. Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, it's like the waves. The waves come in and out. And they're both necessary and essential, but can we find like the waves of the masculine energy and feminine, excuse me, versus just being caught in one most of the time? And for me, in a lot of the work that I do, it's amazing the shifts that can take place when women give themselves permission to rest more, right? How much more loudly and more clear their intuition comes through just
Yes.
by doing a little bit less, which I know you mentioned this earlier, can be uncomfortable. Like doing something that's not familiar. It it sounds simple and it sounds easy, but it can truly be uncomfortable and maybe even a little bit like painful changing that. Something as simple as just doing less and resting more.
Right. Or training yourself to be comfortable in the receiving, right? A lot of women are just not comfortable because they think they have to be doing. Um, and I was one of those women. I, even with like working out, I always thought I had to kill myself to see results. When I started looking at that from a different perspective, I do less working out now, but I'm in better shape because I'm doing and I'm leaning back and just being. So I learned a lot. I've learned so many lessons in my life just once I made that shift to I'll try yoga, and then it just spiraled from there. It's just amazing how I used to think about things, and then when you do that inner work, um, you realize that you don't have to kill yourself to get results. Um, it's it results in anything. You don't have to work yourself to death for your business to be successful. Another thing I think we get caught up in is we want to be like everybody else, right? Because from a young age, you're conditioned to fit in, right? You don't want to stand out because that indicates an issue or a problem. You got to fit in with everybody. And so I think as women entrepreneurs, you see women that you look up to and you think, I want to be like them. No, you want to be like you, but have the success that they have. And a lot of the women that I work with that are starting or have been in business for a few years, but she's doing it. And I'm like, well, we're all unique and we all bring something different to the table. So there's enough soulmate clients to go around, right? You and I may do the exact same thing, but the energy we bring, the experience we have, we're going to attract different clients. So there, it isn't competitive. And I think that's what sometimes holds us back because we're living up to someone else's success story instead of creating our own.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen that as well. And I'm curious if you happen upon this in the line of work you do or in the style in which you kind of coach and mentor, that emotional well-being and kind of visiting those emotions, creating space for them, allowing that expression to happen. Um, because at least for me, I've noticed a lot with the clientele that I talk with, there are these deep things, experiences, emotions that are held inside. And, maybe we've just been conditioned to not talk about them, right? Don't cry and whatever in public,
Exactly.
or, even as a mom right now, like, oh, you can't be upset in front of your kids because of whatever, XYZ, but when you can create the right space and atmosphere to let those things move and surface, you can let go of so much. I've seen people let go of physical pain. I've seen people manifest clients and money they want right away once they allow themselves to kind of sit with that space. So I was curious if you've noticed anything like that, because you mentioned that self-love piece. And for me, that's a huge piece, is allowing space and recognitions for all the emotions.
Yeah, and we're here to experience it all, right? The I don't like to use positive and negative, but the or the good and the not so good. We're here for it all. So if you're having a day that you're upset, you're angry, you're crying, it's okay. It's the judgment piece that trips us up. Just let it be. Like, go into that lean back energy and just allow it to process. Whatever emotion it is, allow it to come through without judgment. It's okay. Let it go. That in and of itself is a form of healing. When we keep it all bottled up inside, it's just staying in there. It's not, and it's probably festering, right? So when you let it go and just let it be, it's okay. If you need to stay in bed for the day and cry, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, I feel like $1 million, good for you. Let it out and do what, take the time you need. It's okay. But we're not conditioned that way. We think we just need to always be on. And if you stay in bed all day, well, you're lazy. No, you're not. You know, or if you do this, you're not a good mom. And society tells us, right? For moms, they're under so much pressure, right? You have to do all these things and be all these things to be a good mom. Well, who doesn't want to be a good mom? So you're going to try to meet all these expectations or conditions. A good wife, a good partner, a good employee. There's all these rules or expectations that we fall into, and we think, oh, well, I have to do this or I have to do that. And I was looking through your group, and I saw the post that you did. I think it was August 25th, about be careful who's telling you should, look out for the shoulds. And we fall victim to that. And it's like, no, we need to stand in our power and be our authentic self.
Yeah, because I agree with you about we hold all our answers within, but we're not, like you said, conditioned to trust that and follow that. So I think it's a helpful practice to get into, to start, playing with questioning some of those things, especially I find the people who are most serious and about, you should do this and it has to be done this way, allowing some questioning around that to help yourself shift and just to help get into that empowerment mode, so you can come up with other creative ideas, right? Because that's the feminine energy, is she's creative and expressive and flowy.
And questioning, like, I tell my clients, question everything. Ask yourself why you feel this way about this, or why you think this way about that. Like, we're also conditioned to not question, right? It's uncomfortable when you start asking someone questions. They don't like it. It gets awkward and uncomfortable, unless you're talking about something exciting, right? But, oh, so how come you do it that way? Or, oh, it's not comfortable. In getting comfortable with asking questions, whether it's out to somebody or yourself, just like, why do I think that I have to color my hair? Why does my hair have to be blonde, or whatever it is? Like, if you're doing it because it makes you happy, go for it. But if you're doing it because society says blondes have more fun, it's like all those little things that we hear all the time. We just believe.
Yeah, or like, where did I hear this from? Or when did I first hear this? When did I first feel this way? And start to trace some of those common, like, patterns in our own lives that we have, trace it back a little bit. And then you can build at least some curiosity around, okay, where did this come from? Do I believe this still? Is this serving me? Is this what I want? What do I want? Or you can continue to ask questions beyond that after you dive in a little bit, which I find can be so expansive and really help those shifts take place.
Yeah. And it's funny, I find myself asking more questions than I've ever asked in my entire life, just in conversation, because people can be very, to your point, this is how you do it, or that you should do this or you should do that. And I just got comfortable with asking questions. And you learn a lot, because if you dig deep enough, they probably don't know why you should do that. It's just, it could be generational. It could be just, it's just something I've always thought, and gee, I don't know why I think that. So it was interesting. One of my mentors told a story about, she asked a question about why do you cut the top of the ham off before you put it in the oven? And the mom's like, I don't know. It's just the way my mother always did it. She cut the top of the ham off and put it in the oven. Ask the grandmother. The grandmother's like, I don't know. My mother just told me to cut the top of the ham off, put it in the oven and cook it. Great grandmother. Well, our stoves used to be so small that the ham didn't fit. So we had to chop the top off. Well, our stoves aren't small anymore. But do you see how just a pattern or a conditioning of how this is how you do it? So you just don't question it, you just do it. My mom told me, that's what I do.
That's so funny. That's the exact example that I was thinking of. It's like those cooking traditions where, yeah, we cut off this part of the animal and then cook it. And nowadays we know well, that's a perfectly fine piece of the meat or whatever food. But yeah, it's just because tradition, that's the way we've always done it. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Just going to keep cutting the ham off, the top of the ham off.
Cutting the ham off.
Yeah, let me just see here, because I had a couple of let's see here. So doing the inner work is, I think it's I say fascinating, because you actually get to know who you are. You learn about yourself, who you truly are and who you're truly meant to be. I just don't believe that we are here to go to school, get a job, get married, have children, retire, die. I just don't think, I believe with everything I am that we have a greater purpose here. And it doesn't matter what age you are. When you start, tapping into your intuition, just start. And you mentioned about manifesting. That's I love talking about manifesting. I've manifested so many things in my life, just not immediate, sometimes immediate, but my husband and I had always talked about, oh yeah, we're going to move to Florida. We're going to eventually move to Florida. And it was 5 years we talked about it. And just about a year ago, we were like, we're moving to Florida, and came out of nowhere. I'm like, this is happening. We're moving to Florida. We're selling our house, and we are going to find that exact house that we talked about. We put our house on the market. 3 days under agreement, drove to Florida, and we looked at all these houses. We're like, no, none of these are the right one. We're going to have to drive back because we had a short window. And there was one more place to look at. We went in there. We're like, that's a house. That's our house. And the number of the house is 222. And I'm like, that is the house.
That's the one.
So it was just a vision, a dream, a manifestation. He was traveling for his work, and I'm like, put out in the universe that you want to find that job that you don't have to travel anymore. We put it out there and we left it alone. We didn't keep saying, okay, universe, we're ready today. We're ready today. Let's make this happen today.
Where is it? Oh, you're not here. Yeah, questioning.
And we do that too, right? We just got to put it out there and trust it. But we want everything right now. It has to be now. I asked you, where is it? It's that leaning back, receiving, waiting, feminine energy that we need to be in. And then it happened. I mean, my business was something that I started talking about in 2013. And I'm living and breathing it every day now. And it seemed like, is this ever going to happen? Like, universe, you know what I'm looking for, but everything happens in divine timing. And when it's meant to happen, it'll happen. So
Yeah, and I know for myself, definitely this is true. And for a lot of women I've talked to as well, some of those feelings of resentment or sometimes those emotions of like anxiety and depression, I have learned in my experience have manifested because of that holding so tightly to some of those conditionings, to some of those traditions, and allowing myself to continue to repeat them or believe them, versus when I finally had enough and got fired, had disagreements with management and got fired for the first time in my life and said, okay, enough. I want to be happy. I want to show up in things that I enjoy doing. I'm going to start saying yes to me and my curiosity, which I think is intuition, your little voice inside is saying, I wonder if that would be fun, or I wonder what would happen if I tried this. Listening to that gave myself permission, and a lot of that went away. A lot of those darker emotions that I was tired of feeling, had been stuck in, went away through that decision. So deciding what you're moving towards.
and I believe we're always manifesting, right? Our words and our thoughts are creating our reality. So what do you want to manifest? And I was recently talking with a client who is looking for the perfect job. So I was on a call with her the other day, and I said, so how's the job search going? Oh, well, I've just given up. The job that I'm looking for just isn't out there. I said, well, how's your current job? Oh, my boss, he doesn't care what I'm doing, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, how about you haven't found your dream job yet, right? Your dream job is out there. You just haven't found it yet. I said, because we're always manifesting. So having an awareness of what our thoughts are and what the words that we put out into the world. I mean, I've manifested not so great things when I was in that mindset of having those, this is never going to work, or if you think it's never going to work, it's never going to work. It's a law of attraction, right? It's just never going to work. But if you think it hasn't worked out yet, the power of yet, like it's out there, I'm just, or if you're trying the same thing, if you're looking for a job in the same places, try something new, try a new place, see what happens. So yeah, you're always, it's not like you turn a button or a switch and you say, I'm going to manifest now. You always are.
Yeah, and it's a process, and it's not always, I want to say this because I used to feel this way when I first started. I was a very sarcastic person, and just was annoyed by people who were positive and think positively. So for the skeptics out there, or for people who when they hear this think like, oh yeah, think positively, yeah, whatever, right? In a way, it is that switching to more of a positive mindset, and it's not quite that simple, right? Because we're human and we have all these emotions and we're meant to feel all of these things. But as somebody who has been in some of the deepest, darkest places, and contemplated suicide and just not wanted to feel anything anymore, to what's the word I'm looking for? Indifference and annoyance with people, and thinking, people who are happy and have it all and happy-go-lucky, they're just so annoying and they're lying or whatever, right? I've been there. I've identified with that at a certain point, right? And then I decided for myself that I wasn't enjoying my life that much. So I started to just open up to, okay, how else could I live? How else can I show up? And in part, it is using positive things and positive words because, like you're saying, right, our words are powerful, our thoughts are powerful, and they are, yes. And you don't have to jump from either extreme, right? There's a huge
Exactly.
scale in the middle, and it's allowed to be different every day. So that was just coming through from spirit
Yeah,
too.
it's a healing process, right? It's a journey. It's not, you don't wake up every day and you're like, yay, ready to go. It's life, right? Things come up, and I, I think through the healing process, if something triggers you, you're showing up in a different way, right? You might not be as angry or as frustrated. And then as you continue to dig deeper, as you said, then maybe now it's a trigger, but it's like, oh yeah, but that's okay. But things don't just change overnight. It's definitely a journey and a process.
Yeah, and just allowing yourself to get curious and playful with the words that you use, right? Even your example with like stay in bed all day. It's like, okay, I give myself permission to do this. I recognize I need this today, versus maybe more judgmental thoughts or harsh self-criticism, like on a day where that's needed, right? Or just one of my phrases that I've been using more so recently has been, how can I show myself love? How can I love on myself today? Which has been really fun to play with.
Because sometimes it can be like really simple. Like, I'm going to stay in the shower an extra 10 minutes because this feels really good.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't have to be, I'm going to take myself on a weekend getaway. It can be things that you're already doing, maybe just extended. Or maybe I'm just going to stay out for a little bit longer on my walk today. Or I'm going to sit outside just a little bit longer. It doesn't have to be expensive or
yeah,
dramatic.
you don't have to spend any money. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or it's like, if you want, you know what, today I feel like I want chocolate chip cookies. I'm going to have them. And that makes you happy, do it. Sometimes when we get in that frame mind of healthy, we think, oh, I can't eat that, or I can that. And then you form this whole thing around it. Just have it. It's okay. We don't have to be so rigid with ourselves. We have to show grace and understand that it's a journey, it's a process, and release expectations of everything shifting immediately.
Yeah, release your expectations. Stay open to the possibilities, because I don't know about you and those watching, but my favorite things that I've manifested happened in such a way that I could never have planned, never have predicted. I definitely took practical action to move towards them, but ultimately it's like things fell into place. People thought of me. That's how I got clients. And it's just interesting how it comes about, which, yeah, when we're rigid, we kind of close ourselves off to, or we might say no to something. Whereas if we were open and said yes, it's like that could lead to your breakthrough.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes the universe just pings you and you're like, oh, the other day I was walking and I was listening to a book, and which I don't know if you've read Witches by Lisa Lisler.
Yeah.
Did you love that book?
Yeah, love it. Yeah, I read it in a way different style. I would randomly flip here and there, but have read the whole thing. But yeah, I got exactly what I needed when I would turn in and tune in.
Yeah, I love that book. And I was finishing it and I was listening to it and I was walking, and she was talking about cutting the apple and the star in the center of the apple. And I looked down on the pavement. We were past that section in the book, and I looked down and there's a leaf all by itself in the shape of a star. And I'm like, the universe is like just pinging me today. And then a friend called me and said, hey, I know someone that could really use your guidance. how do I connect them with you? And just when you're open to it, and I wasn't thinking about anything, and the universe just starts delivering.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Yeah, and I've had my last course that I launched, and I'm about to launch this course, had people start asking me questions and telling me, oh, I need this. And I hadn't talked about the course yet, but that's exactly those questions that they were asking. That's exactly what the course was about. And I had people purchase before I even announced that it was available, which is like the best feeling that happens.
Yeah, it's so interesting how things just start to shift.
Absolutely. And I definitely want to give you a time and space to let everyone know what you might have available or up and coming for how they can work with you and stay connected. I know, and I mentioned earlier, that I teach about the moon cycles and the lunar phases and can help you pair emotional release and alchemize your inner transformation to manifest your life and start making money living your soul purpose through practicing lunar abundance with the moon, and have a course coming out. But I would love for you to share with people how they can connect with you and the transformation that they can expect.
Sure. I just wanted to touch on one more thing that you said
Go
you
ahead.
wanted to talk about, the tools for
Yes.
for tapping into your intuition. So a couple of, God, I love it all, but
There's so many.
all the healing options. But a couple of things that I like to see is like a morning routine. Um, you know, get up a little bit earlier, grab your coffee, and I am 150% behind taking. If it's 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes. Meditate. Now, when you say that, sometimes people go, "I don't have time to meditate." It's okay. Find a quiet space and just sit there. Even if you have your eyes closed and you're sipping on your coffee and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this coffee is amazing," and you're just sitting there. Start to meditate. Start a meditation practice.
That
And
mindful presence. Yeah, I agree. Even
yes,
so, I became a mom last year, and as a new mom, you said 10 minutes. I would even tell other moms 1 minute. Like 1 minute is significant. It matters. Take time for you. 1 minute, even if all you're doing is breathing, right? And being present with
yes,
your breath.
yeah. The meditation, breath work, um, and try to have like a morning ritual or a morning routine. I also I love pulling cards. So I have 4 different cards that I pull every morning. And someone told me that when you're pulling cards for yourself, it's your higher self, your future self, pulling the cards for what you need to know today. So I always find that fascinating. It doesn't have to be a crazy process, but um, I just pull 4 cards, and 9 times out of 10, I know exactly why I'm pulling them. The cards speak to me. Sometimes I'll get a card and I'm like today I got one that said self-care, take a break. And I pulled it and I'm like, I don't understand this one. This one isn't for me because I've been treating myself well. I've been in that lean back energy. And I got an email from a woman I work with, and she said, "I'm making some changes in my life. I'm stopping this. I'm stopping that. I'm gonna take a break." And I was like, "Aha!" So then I took a picture and I sent her the card and I said, "I pulled this card this morning and I knew it wasn't for me, but there's a reason why." And so sometimes that'll be the reason why.
Yeah.
But I like the card pulling. In Do something for you every day, whether it's getting out and walking in nature. It doesn't have to be a crazy thing. It can be a mile, it can be around the block. And just tune in to what you hear, what you see. What do you feel? What's the air feel like on your skin? And then you'll start to notice different things and start question like, "Oh, I hear this bird every day. I wonder what that's about. Or, I see this, today I was walking home and in the sidewalk was cut out a heart. And I always look for hearts in nature because I always think there's a sign. And there was a heart cut out in the sidewalk, and I'm like, and it kind of chipped away into the shape of a heart. So I feel like, the universe is always speaking to you. It's always listening.
Exactly. Yeah. Take care of yourself. And if you can ask that question, if it resonates with you, right? How can I love on myself today? How can I nourish myself today? And if that's eating nachos or a chocolate chip cookie, but that feels really nourishing and loving in the moment, do that, right? Versus coming from a place of like, I don't know, more harsh energy, right? Anything that feels nourishing and can be free, right? Just getting outside. Like when I worked inside for like 8+ hours a day, I would go outside and just take this big breath of air and just enjoy the feeling of the air on my skin and in my lungs and breathing that in. So it can be the simplest of things.
Yep, it doesn't have to be. I think sometimes, at least I did, when I first got introduced to all of this, I always thought it was like, oh, I don't have time to meditate. I can't meditate.
Yeah.
We all can meditate, start off small and just kind of work your way up. And your inner voice is just going to speak to you. Just be open to listening. Everything will be answered. Sometimes you can pose a question before you go into meditation, and your intuition is just going to provide you the answer, or you may not hear it. Depends if are you clairvoyant? Do you smell things? Sometimes I'll meditate and I'll smell something and it's not a smell in my house. So where's it coming from? So just, your intuition speaks to you in so many ways. So just be open. So right now for me, I have a couple of spots for one-to-one coaching, and I'm getting ready to announce I've teamed up with a friend of mine who's into fitness and nutrition. And then with my mind and soul, we're going to do a women's retreat in the beginning of January. It's going to be the mind, body, soul connection. And it's saying goodbye to, the New Year's resolutions and just getting in this amazing space for 2022. So it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited to announce that. But right now I'm just doing the one-to-one for the rest of the year.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's good. That sounds like a lot of fun. I've been tempted to create retreats and stuff. I haven't yet, but 2022 is a big year. And I love that it's 2022. And then that house number that you found too, that 222.
Yeah.
Coming in, that divine feminine energy too represents that. It's a very flowy number.
Yes. I'm a numbers person too. So I'm always seeing repeating numbers.
Yeah. I always look up
write it down
behind it. Yeah. And write them down. Exactly. Beautiful. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Cherie, for being here tonight, for talking about this important subject and letting us know how we can stay connected with you and how individuals can work with you. And two, for anyone listening, if you want to dive more into the moon and her magic and connect more, I'm launching a program as well this month, in fact, with Shelby, who's in the group. And she's going to be teaching more of aligning your life with the moon and doing yoga with the moon phases. And I'm teaching more of the meditation and emotional release, but super excited about that program, Lunar Connection. So if you feel curious about that, feel free to reach out to me. And then Cherie, do you have any groups that you want to let people know about, or Instagram, or any way they can reach out and connect with you? And I'll post these as well in the group, but if you want to share them now.
Sure. So I hang out on Instagram. I don't have a Facebook group. So it's just Cherie Nikosey for Instagram. And that's where I spend my time.
Perfect. All right, and I'll have the posted on the information in my group as well. But yeah, thank you so much. And any questions at all about this subject, about diving into love yourself more and transform and find your soul purpose, anything at all, feel free to reach out to Cherie or myself.
Thank you
Otherwise,
so much.
yeah, thank
Pleasure
you.
to be here.
Yeah, otherwise, good evening, ladies.
Thank you.